Hello, and welcome to Life Science New York's Spotlight Series, conversations with innovators, leaders, and change makers in New York State's biomed ecosphere. Today, I'm joined by Kathi Durdon, the Executive Director of the Central New York Biotech Accelerator, a unique facility, certainly in upstate New York, the only university-run accelerator and incubator focused in healthcare and the life sciences. It's part of Upstate Medical University. And Kathi, we're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
So, Kathi, here's where we like to start the conversations. Before we get to the CNY BAC, tell us a little bit about you, about your journey. What brings you to the CNY BAC, and a little bit about your history?
Sure. So I initially started at Upstate Medical University eons ago. I directed the clinical trials office. I did a lot of contracts and budgets and ran documents out or around to get signatures and started an education program for our multitude of clinical research coordinators and associates. Our Dr. Robert Corona was lured away to Welch Allyn, which was a medical device manufacturer. And there was a position that came open. I applied for it because I wanted to expand into more of an industry setting. And I actually was on a golf course at the Children's Miracle Network and got a call to come in for an interview. He did not want to hire me because he wanted a nurse with a regulatory background. And he said, okay, we're going to try you on a probationary period. And I became the manager of the clinical affairs team, working on standard operating procedures initially. And then really our team did everything soup to nuts as far as clinical research was concerned, specific to the medical device development. And we really pushed to have the clinical affairs team work within the product development and design cycle rather than being handed off a product ready for clinical trials. So we developed a process that really provided input that was user-centric, had user representation, and it was a great job. I thoroughly enjoyed working at Welch Allyn, but Dr. Corona, who was our chief medical officer, was enticed back to Upstate Medical University to chair their Department of Pathology and to become VP of Business Development for a new facility, the Central New York Biotech Accelerator. And he called me up one day and he said, there's a job that I think that you might be interested in. It was a very, very, very difficult decision to make. I had a daughter who's actually doing very well with now Baxter. And she had been a college graduate, was a contract worker. We had lunch all the time at Welch Allyn. But I had to take this job. This job was it for me. It was everything that combined my education, my experience, my interests, and it was relatively new. It was something that I could move into and grow.
So let's change the focus a bit and talk about the CNY Biotech Accelerator. For those listeners, viewers who aren't familiar with the facility, describe it for us and talk about its purposes, would you?
Sure. So it's 52,000 square feet, thereabouts, 4 floors. It's we call it a boomerang. It's kind of a boomerang shape. It has a curve. It's a lot of windows. 3 floors are relatively usable space. The 4th floor is utilities, but we've actually pushed to use that space as well. Our first 2 floors are wet lab spaces and a molecular genetics lab. The molecular genetics lab is part of the Department of Pathology. They're an anchor tenant for us. We have shared equipment within the building, so -80 freezers, glass washer sterilizers, balancers, scales, dry ice that we offer to the clients who are licensing space in the building. Initially, the building was relatively empty. It was built in 2 phases. The first phase was 2011, and they created the shell and portions of the first and second floor. When Dr. Corona came, he gained funding to finish the building as a phase 2 project, his Medical Innovation and Novel Discovery Center. And they constructed a 200-seat theater, a creation garage, which is our little prototyping area, a Collide and Cloister Cafe, and a pod area. And we began to fully market the space. I also brought forward a collaboration lab model. Not many startups can license an entire 900 square foot wet lab. So we said, okay, we're going to start with this one collaboration lab. You tell us what you need. It's first come, first serve. I only charge for the space that you're using. I don't charge for walkable space because we're going to have more than one company in a lab. I filled that lab immediately. And then we started on the second collaboration lab model. And what worked really well is that our expectation was that these clients, we wanted them to concentrate on their product development. We wanted them to fully utilize their limited resources to get that product towards commercialization, to hire, to bring on interns. And that worked. It worked to the extent that we were able to expand out several clients, Quadrant Biosciences, Zetagen Therapeutics, Repair Biotechnologies, and we are now completely full. We actually even took over the locker rooms on our first floor and made mini labs out of those because they weren't being utilized and our clients needed space. So we also worked from we need to be flexible kind of mindset. Our pod area was originally going to be for small clients first coming in or graduating out, but we needed the space. And Quadrant Biosciences reformatted the space in order to bring in more people. So we've tried to be flexible and accommodate client needs. Also initiated a virtual client program so that folks could come in and use space on an intermittent need basis, while also getting the benefits of being a client, connecting to Upstate Medical University core facilities, for instance, at faculty rates, getting connected to the expansive ecosystem that we have, and we're continually growing that ecosystem.
So, Kathi, you used a term that caught my ear, and that is you talked about tenants who graduate from the space. Mm-hmm. At least suggesting to me, right, that there is a move in, move up, move out, perhaps process that happens. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. How does somebody join the CNY BAC? What happens when you're there, and how do you know when you're ready to leave the nest?
Sure. So our companies are pharmaceutical, biologic, and medical device companies. They're in a regulated industry. Their path to market is much longer. So our expectation is that they could be here 3, 5, 10 plus years. They may have pivots. They may have additional pipelines. So it's dependent upon the company and what their trajectory is. We have 2 graduates that have moved out and into their own facilities, but for the most part, because we're relatively young, our clients are still here, working with product development, getting grant funding, getting investment. I just heard from one client that's now selling product. They're a virtual client. That would certainly be a graduation stage. We report to the state because we're a New York State certified business incubator. Milestones achieved on an annual basis. We want to see that our companies are achieving milestones, that they're growing. Otherwise, our policy is that they can't be in the building. They need to actively be working on commercialization. The normal process to apply, we have an application online. For on-site clients looking for wet lab space, the criteria is a little bit more strict, and there's a qualification form that our advisory board developed and they review. For a virtual client status, as long as you're commercializing a biotechnology related product or service, we can usually invite you in. We send you a virtual form, but we do want to make sure that we understand your needs and we can meet your needs. We have a Creation Garage client program as well. That's where these clients don't need wet lab space. They need more admin space, or maybe they want access to our 3D printer. And that space, I think I have one desk left. But people can call me, email me, check our website, apply through our website. We try to make it as easy as possible. The other thing is we're in a collaborative ecosystem. We don't want to turn people away completely, but we do point you in directions where we know there's vacancy, where if you're looking for any, so for instance, if you're working on product development and you need manufacturing hardware support, we might send you to NextCore, for instance, or if you're looking for batteries and sensors and electrical, we might send you down to SUNY Binghamton. So we understand the ecosystem, and we want the companies to be where they should be at the time they should be there.
So you're very nicely leading me into the next place that I wanted to talk about, which is what I'm hearing from you, Kathi, really is that the CNY BAC is more than just a physical location, but it is actively involved in helping innovators build, grow, figure out what they need to develop the products. And I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about one of the signature programs of the CNY BAC, which is the Medical Device Innovation Challenge, a program that you've now done for several years. And I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about the MDIC and what that's all about.
Sure. So the Medical Device Innovation Challenge I created based on my medical device background. It is grant supported through Empire State Development. It is an early stage program. We select 5 teams, up to 5 teams each year, to mentor them through the early stage commercialization process, essentially so that we can expand their ecosystems. We help them get on a trajectory that is more focused, possibly. A lot of times our early stage companies will say, well, we need money. And we will say, well, you're not ready yet. We want to get you to where you're ready for funding, if it's investment, or maybe it's SBIR submission. We promote I-Core. We want to see team building, but we largely will talk to teams about the regulatory strategy. The Innovation Law Center is a key partner in the program. They provide due diligence of the applications that we received. Last year, we received 88 applications. They also mentor the teams, and they provide student-based commercialization research, which begins in July. We host mentor meetings with the teams, and we host a pitch competition at the end. So we had our pitch competition at our Upstate Innovation Day event on January 23rd. We had a winner by Red Imaging. And this year, I'm happy to announce that we now, Upstate Medical University now has a pre-seed, seed, and investment, VC equity-based investment fund. So our intent is that we will have funding for select and eligible growth companies.
Let me just hop in again. You mentioned the Innovation Law Center. For those who don't know, that's a state-supported center located at Syracuse University's College of Law that really works with early-stage companies in some initial customer discovery, IP-related questions. It really is a nice collaboration between the Innovation Law Center and what you're doing at the CNY BAC. So, Kathi, what's next on the agenda for the BAC?
Yep. And before I forget, I do want to mention the MDIC application deadline is March 31st. So we need to receive applications by then.
And for folks who are interested in learning more about that, you can find additional information at the CNY BAC's website, which you'll find a link in our chat. But for those of you who are listening, it is cnybac.com.
Great, thank you. So next on the horizon, I wanted to throw out some client milestones if I could.
Please.
So we do like to promote our client activities. We share their news. We want to make sure that people are aware of them, particularly if they're interested potentially in investing in one of our companies. So Repair Biotechnologies, they submitted their first pre-IND package to the FDA this month, and they aim to conduct their first in-human clinical trials by 2026. This is in atherosclerosis. They have a cholesterol degrading platform therapy. So sites, clinical trial sites, if you have an interest, let me know, and I'll point you to Repair Biotechnologies. Quadrant Biosciences, if you haven't heard about them, they now have subsidiary companies. They have grown from 5 employees initially to over 150. They have a virtual clinic for autism evaluations. It's called As You Are, and it's now in all 50 states, and they've reduced two-year diagnostic wait times for autism down to weeks. So it's just been a phenomenal impact to families in that with autism. Triton Bio was awarded an SBIR Phase 1 from the CDC, and they also won a Commercialization CAT Award from Cornell University Biotechnology Institute in partnership with the Department of Microbiology. And we also heard from Paula Doyle. Paula Doyle is the CMO of Endoglow. She's located in Rochester. She was in our very first 2017 Medical Device Innovation Challenge program. She became a CNY BAC virtual client, and they now have sales and are no longer pre-revenue, which is what we want for all of our teams. We actually also had a client be acquired this year, which is another great milestone. And I filled their lab up the day after they told me they were going to be leaving. So
well, listen,
got a lot going on.
Yeah, there certainly is no place in New York State's life sciences ecosphere more active than what's happening at the CNY BAC. And Kathi, kudos to you, kudos to the team at Upstate Medical University, and certainly support from New York State to really help accelerate the growth of life sciences, healthcare companies, innovators, not only in central New York, but really across the entirety of New York State. We look forward to watching more progress come out of the CNY BAC. Again, you can connect with Kathi and her team at cnybac.com. Kathi Durdon, Executive Director of the Central New York Biotech Accelerator, thanks for joining us today. This has been a great chat.
Thanks, Gwen.